all of the scariest things that you could ever not see in your life. It is the craziest thing, and yes, it just keeps getting scarier. Hey, and it keeps us with the job. Lincoln, I know you want to say what's up. Linky, say word.
What is up, motherfuckers? What's going on, man? Yeah, my dad don't know shit. Oh, no, the music just stopped. Oh, man. Man, I know I did. I saw Bigfoot on the back. It was just my dad. He was butt naked in the backyard. What a goober, man. He's such a nerd. Oh, man. Well, welcome to NoAvaiL's Mystery Podcast. Daddy, take it over.
Thank you, Linky. Thank you a million, man. You're awesome. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thank you more. I know I'm going to have to go in here and do one thing because it ain't Rose. Go because I'm going to tell you. So, how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing today? It is, Friday? It is an awesome Friday. I don't know if you're from Tulsa, but yes, we have a thing called the Mayfest co-kicking this weekend. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, being that you're probably not from Tulsa, but it's something fun to go to. Maybe we'll run into some crazy cryptids. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, we all doubt that. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, man, there's some cool stories today about, well, all right. So I got some good emails, some cool things from some stories about people that are, man, they're pretty good. I want to say thank you a million for the emails and emailing me for them. I mean, the stories. I always love to get everybody's stories, you know. So here we go. We'll just start this now. This one from Rick Rollo 24. Okay. Oh, I hunt. I encountered something in the woods. I thought it was a person in a blue coat. I approached and something didn't feel right. Despite I had a 7mm Magnum and capable of dropping any animal in Washington, this thing made me back away slowly in fear. It darted in and out of peeking, then moved 7 feet up and peeked. It was solid, then shimmered. I tripped over an old hobo cam. Rifle was at ready. I backed away very scared. I made it to my buddy's truck within, which was about 200 feet away. I seriously walked backwards, keeping my eye on him. My buddy shows up. He's pale as a ghost. I didn't see anything, he said. I didn't even ask. And he was scared, like about to cry scared. He left not saying what we saw. Huh. Well, thank you for that story. I'm going to leave that one up to your own little, memory to go on. But hey, story's a story. And I gotta say, I appreciate the emails more than anything. All right, next one is from Off Us Max. All right, Joey NoAvaiL, thank you for having our story on your show. This gives us a place for all of us to be able to tell our stories without sounding freakishly dumb. Man, you're very welcome. Off Us Max. Man, I love that you guys, you definitely have a safe spot. I believe in everything. I don't think that anything cannot happen. So, man, thank you for having your story on here. Here we go. When we got married, My wife's sister gave us a gift certificate for a night at a bed and breakfast not too far away from where we live now. So we booked the night and went up. What I didn't know if my wife knew, was that the place was a farm in the 1700s, and the farmer's daughter died at a young age and has haunted her old room since. Guess who got her room? They did tell us the ghost's name, but I don't remember it. We are talking 25 years ago here. So I wake up in the middle of the night. I see this white thing floating near the fireplace. It looked like a circular woven wicker sheet folded in half with white flowers in it. It clearly wasn't physically there. It's like the image was superimposed. That's pretty good. Sorry, I'm eating. Okay. Okay. So, all right. It clearly wasn't physically there. It's like the image was superimposed on top of the image of the room coming from my eyes. Now, my wife is a light sleeper. If I get out of bed in the middle of the night, she always wakes up. I tried to wake her up, and I couldn't. So I looked back at the floating image and said, "Hello, ghost name." The thing hung there for a couple seconds more, and then zipped out of the room into the bathroom, and I went back to sleep. Well, okay. I don't know about you, but I love the story. I don't think that I'd be able to go back to sleep on that, but hey, some people are, some people handle that, others. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Oh. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to go back to sleep. But some people are better. And stuff like that.
No, they're stupid.
Huh?
They're not.
What?
They're stupid.
Oh.
It's like the people who are like, let's split up.
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
I blame some bitch who's last cut. And
Let's split up. We'll cover more ground. Yeah.
she's a vampire from Mozambique.
Those are true colors. All right. Oh shit.
What?
Yeah. All right.
Wait.
I wouldn't.
It's not an advertisement. Nor do we get paid. But I want to say this in a second. That sriracha makes everything better.
Yeah, it does.
Everything from ramen to beans to, I don't know, enchilada.
That is true. That is true. Yay for that. Yeah, chicken enchiladas sound good. They sound really good. Woo! All right. Well, now this one from Trustin Butts McGee. Hey, I like that name. Trustin Butts McGee. That's pretty good. All right. He says, Joey, thanks for having this story on air. I hope you get to it to read it. I want to say thank you. Here we go. When I was a teenager, probably about 16, I started developing bad insomnia. Our house at the time had 2 stories and a basement, and was just over 2 acres of land. So close to neighbors, but far enough away that there wasn't much neighborhood lighting. So it was dark outside. One night, one night I was home alone with my younger brother, while my parents and the youngest brother were at a hospital with my dad, who just had surgery. My brother was asleep, and I was just starting to go to sleep around 3 or 4 in the morning, when suddenly I heard heavy footsteps downstairs and someone walking back and forth. Naturally, I thought someone broke in, and I was terrified. I determined that if I remained quiet, whoever broke in would just maybe take some stuff from the main floor, we didn't have many valuables, and leave without risking anyone waking up. When day came, it turned out everything was fine and nothing was taken. There was no trace of any intruder. Eventually I got over it, but about a month or 2 later, I heard it again, and again, and again. Always between 2 and 4 a.m., and always on the floor below me. My family doubted me because of the insomnia and my general sleep deprivation. Well, one night I was up really late with my mom and we heard it together. Not only that, but this time it was on the same floor as us. She said, "No way. That's just Dad. I'll go look." When she came back, she looked surprised and informed me Dad was fast asleep. The validation was nice, but I would have preferred sleep deprivation hallucinations. Over time, the rest of my family heard it. We called it the poltergeist. It was never malicious, but one day we found one of our hammers bent backwards, which was weird. We set up a night vision camera and eventually did capture the sounds on tape, along with what sounded like a glass set out on the counter and a heavy sigh. Unfortunately, we accidentally and stupidly taped over it when recording the Super Bowl. Mom, in all her brave glory, once heard it in the basement and went down to tell it that it was dead and to go toward the light. If I recall, we really didn't hear much after that. Well, they always say, man, I thought I heard my sister in here once. Nah, but I swear I heard her voice say Joey, but I could be wrong. All right. Thank you for your story. I love them all. All right. This one from Atlas Thug 7. Now, these are fun. Always fun. Hey, what's up, the Maven? What's up, guys? Thank you for joining. All right, here we go. So this one, I just want to say thank you for your emails. If you have any stories you want me to read, please just email me at NoAvaiL or you can call in and you can tell your story. I love that just as well. And check out my, please check out, if you haven't, check out my website. It's joelshaddy77.podbean.com. You can go on there. You can get all my podcasts, all the episodes on my YouTube channel is on there. My crowdfunding page. Go on there. If we're smart and we're like-minded people like us, and you'll go and become a patron. $1 to $3, and keeps the lights going, and it keeps the stories coming. Plus you get some real cool perks if you become a patron. I got shirts coming up, and I've got some real cool giveaways, but you have to be a patron to get the giveaways and stuff. But check it out. If not, I still always appreciate everybody that even just comes on. So check out my website, joelshaddy77.podbean.com. It's so much appreciated, and you guys are more appreciated than you'll ever know. All right, moving on to Atlas Thug 7. Okay. I saw a pterodactyl on the coast of northern central California. Now, I have talked about this. I'm always sort of a little bit about the big flying. I was just talking about this yesterday. Pterodactyls. You know what? Let's see what the story. Let's give this story. Okay. I saw a pterodactyl on the coast of northern central California. All right. Me and my girlfriend were on a road trip without any end in mind. We were just driving up the coast and decided to sleep on the beach. God, I love doing that. I'm not sure exactly where we were, but I'd say within an hour's drive south of Monterey. As we were hanging out on the beach at night, we both noticed a huge figure in the sky. Slowly, as it gets near, I realized that this thing was no bird. I've seen hawks, golden eagles, owls, vultures, condors. None of them looked like this. It also didn't fly like a bird. It flapped what appeared to be leathery wings very slowly. I swear, my first thought was that I was seeing a dragon. Now that would be the bomb. Who doesn't want to see a dragon? I used to have a dragon. He was a ferret named Kyle. God, he was the bomb. Anyway, moving on. What's more is both of us saw it. We both stared at it awestruck for a few seconds before I caught its profile against the moon. Wow, that'd be cool. And it very strikingly looked to be like a pterosaur. Wow. In the few moments we witnessed this thing, it was like realized froze and gelled around this moment. Like my focus was being directly pointed to this thing. I found that same sensation when I've had other paranormal experiences. Like the universe wants to be paid attention to at that particular moment. Later on, I have even found a website for documenting pterodactyl sightings on the California coast. I don't know if there was, there's one right back there on that thing. With several occurring within that region. I try to remain a rational skeptic, but this is simply mind-blowing, and sure as fuck felt like we were looking at some sort of flying reptilian cryptid. Well, brother, I'm going to tell you this now. You probably did see it. I'm just saying because there's not anything that I don't believe in. I mean, really. There's not one thing that I can't do. I'm not going to say that it exists or does not exist. Please too, man, if you like the show, if you like what you're hearing, please hit like. It helps the channel a million. Those little hearts, man, just keep hitting those. Man, it helps the channel a million. It helps Podbean, know that I'm getting different, that people are listening. I'm getting engagement. It helps a million. What? What? Oh, that one won't. You gotta find the black one. Right. Now, next one coming from, let's see, where am I at? Okay. Wait a minute, here we go. Alright, this one from Professor Beer. Hey, I like the name, man. Oh shit, where'd he go? Professor Beer, where'd you go? Well, maybe I lost Professor Beer. Oh shit balls. What? Oh, it's a drill thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you take this thing and you do that all the way around and it'll open up and you can get it out. If you wait, I'll help you. Alright, let's see. Where am I at? Okay, I gotta find this, let me find this Beers band. I'm sorry, I apologize, I lost it. But I will find him. Alright, how's everybody doing today, man? It's a beautiful day today. Professor Beer, here we are. All right. A house I lived in college had a ghost named Violetta. Huh. I never really put much stock in it, but one night at 2 a.m. I wake up to a woman scratchily whispering, "Hello," right outside my third floor window. I have a long history of walking in my sleep, but I can tell after I wake up what's real and what's just in my mind. That was 100% fucking real. They don't. Yes. One of my housemates was putting in all-nighters and was cooking in the kitchen that night. And at 1:45, she heard footsteps coming up our basement, which was padlocked from the outside, and I had the only key. The roommate next to me asked me the next morning. I was sick because I was coughing nonstop for a while around 2 a.m. I was not coughing. I was laying in my bed wide awake and dead still, trying to come up with the rational explanation for what it was that just happened. Finally, our midnight chef heard footsteps go downstairs around 2:30. Yeah. Okay. Well, alright. That was okay. Alright, next story from... This one from, Intelligent Cod 3. Alright, Intelligent Cod 3. Joey, I want to say thank you for having my story on your show. I have a couple more, and I hope to hear you read them. Man, you're very welcome. Intelligent Cod 3. I love having your stories on here. All right, here we go. When my family would visit my grandparents when I was 5 to 8 years old, I was convinced I'd see an outline of a person standing in the basement or doorway at night. Like totally 100% sure there was a figure standing there, only it was much too dark to make out any features, and it definitely was not any of my family members. Now, if it were my family, I can tell you now, it would have been my family members.
Fuck yeah, that would have been your dumbass sister. I mean, her fat ass. Oh, man. Okay, Dad. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, Lincoln. I know. Where were we? Everyone else would be asleep in their guest beds, and I'd be lying there in the darkness unable to move because I was so afraid. I remember my nightgown being soaked with sweat, despite it being freezing in the basement. Like I was that terrified. Anywho, my grandparents ended up moving out of that house, but even then, once in a while, back home, I swear I'd see a shadowy figure peering around the doorway to my bedroom. Again, definitely not a member of my family, as the figure was much too tall. A few years later, I mentioned it to my grandmother, who jokingly said it was probably a dead soldier looking for his whiskey. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's that's a pretty good one. All right, here we go. All right, now. Oh, that one, I don't know. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, this one from Saztac. Let's see. Where is Saztac? Ah, shit balls. Oops. Okay, where did I go? I lost. No. Sorry, I'll be right there. Whoa. Wait a minute. What? They gotta go in the wall. What is this? Okay. Huh. Alright, now this one. Professor Beer. A house I lived in college had a ghost named... Nope, I just read that. Intelligent Cod... Read that. Sorry, I apologize. Here we go. Saztag. Here we go. One time while I was sleeping, I heard a loud pop. Similar to a firecracker, but not quite as loud. I thought it might have been my computer, some sort of electrical short. So I woke up and looked at my computer to see if there was a, fire or something. I didn't see anything in the dark, so I relaxed and shifted to lay on my back to go back to sleep, looking up at the ceiling. Within a couple of seconds, I started to notice some sort of vague, shadowy figure, as if they were standing next to my bed and waving a hand over me. I've seen shapes like this before, so I watched the hand out of curiosity. Then the hand went away, and I felt the side of my bed dip down, as if something was pushing down on it. Slow enough as it was, if not to scare me, yet firm enough to be very noticeable. This was surprising, but I wasn't scared. I looked to where the shadow was, standing, and out from the dark, for a brief moment, a reptilian-looking humanoid appeared there, wearing a plain and slightly loose shirt, and holding a clipboard with his left hand, and holding a pen, something in his right, as if making a note. His head was in profile to me, turned to his left, so I was looking at his right side of his face. His eyes stood out to me with the most terrified look. He looked concerned, round pupil, fairly large in size, and almost cartoony looking, but kind. I could see scales outlined on his skin, and he had larger scales along his prominent brow. He had a smallish sort of beak nose, and it looked like his upper lip, covered down to his bottom jaw, aka no discernible lips or mouth. His shoulders were very broad, more broad than most humans, and he seemed a bit shorter than a typical human, if I had to guess. I didn't see anything below where his elbows sat around his midsection, so I don't know what his legs or feet looked like. The way I looked was like he and his details were outlined in the lights. Hey, shush! In the lights you see when you press on your eyes. That kind of greenish yellow, slightly rainbow look. Quite bright in the dark, but still kind of faint. It was very brief, like a second, but very detailed in the center of my vision. I have no idea what to make out of it, but I'll never forget it. I tried drawing him once, but unfortunately I don't have with me. I wonder about it a lot. This was in 2009. I would have been 21.
Wow.
Well, thank you for your story. And I'm at the bottom of the hour, so I've got to take a break, but I'm going to leave you with a pre-recorded story. So here we go. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
I was so busy and preoccupied hiking out in the woods that day. I can't believe that I had the encounter that I did. Walking along the trail that I was on, it was a beautiful, serene sight, surrounded by tall redwoods on both sides, with a foresty expanse that seemed to go on forever. I had my backpack, my canteen, and nothing was going to stop me from the 6-mile trail loop. I had just gone through a really bad relationship, and I really needed some fresh air and some nature to kind of help cheer me up. The first thing I noticed, and I've gone on this trail before, is that it's usually quite busy, especially right around 10 a.m. People walking their dogs, other friendly hikers passing by, saying hello, waving, but it seemed kind of dead. This was a nice, beautiful morning in May. It should be booming, but I didn't think much of it. I just figured, hey, I have the trail all to myself. So I continued on at a good pace. There's a point in the trail where it kind of slopes down a bit, levels out, and then goes back up. So as I'm going down the slope, I hear noise off to my left, and I look, thinking somebody's in the woods. Maybe another hiker or somebody else walking their dog, potentially. And I look, nobody's there. I just immediately think it was probably a bird that landed or something. I mean, after all, these are the woods, and I can't put past any animals to be around. So I hardly even stopped, just kept on walking. But as I'm walking, I began to get this sensation that somebody is following me. So just like in the movies, I keep turning my head, expecting to hear leaves crunch or twigs to break, but nothing. In fact, the opposite happened. The forest that was alive around me, and birds, and the wind, and you can kind of just hear the forest. It was eerily silent, kind of like I walked into Silent Hill, just deathly quiet. I didn't notice this right away, but more noticed it after time, after I had reached the bottom of the slope. I was beginning to feel a little uncomfortable, but not totally afraid yet. I kept checking behind me, expecting to see somebody peering out behind a tree, watching me. But of course I saw nothing. I just thought nothing of it, and continued on my way, thinking that whatever was happening was very weird, but wasn't completely off-putting, at least not just yet. So I'm continuing my hike, and it becomes a large bend on the trail, and then it continues back straight. So I come around the bend, continue going on, and then there's a small little bridge, actually two small little bridges, that cross this small section of river. As I'm going across these bridges, I could have sworn to you, out of the right side of my eye, I saw a white face looking at me. So I turn to look, and I saw nothing. From what I saw out of the corner of my eye, it was an elongated face, and very hairy, but white. But when I turned, there was nothing there. So now I'm thinking, alright, this is getting weird. I feel like somebody is definitely trying to pull a prank. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick up the pace, finish this trail loop, and I'm done. So I picked up the pace even faster. And the further I went into this trail loop, which, by the way, still not seeing a soul around, things began to get even more creepy. It stayed completely silent this entire time, besides, of course, the sound of water and the river. And as I make it far enough away from the river, to where the sound of rushing water is barely audible, I began to hear something very large coming directly towards me, not just walking casually, but running. It sounded like a grizzly bear charging at me at full speed, and I'm looking around, surrounded by open forest and redwoods. If there was anything coming at me, with the sound that this thing had, you would see it, but I saw nothing, and I could hear it charging at me through the forest. Panic immediately set in, and I bolted as fast as I can. I'm no athletic runner. In fact, I probably couldn't even handle a marathon, but my adrenaline allowed me to run at least 1 to 2 miles straight. And yeah, deal with was hostile and dangerous. At this point in my trek, I did not feel safe. I was feeling hunted by something. Some large animal had me in for its dinner plate, and I did not want to be included. So I just walked a very fast pace after spending about 20 seconds trying to catch my breath. Fear drove me. Fear allowed me to push my physical limits and finish the trail loop an amount of time that I've never done before. The entire time, deathly silent. Something around me. I could feel it. Something was not only following me, but watching me. And I never saw anything else besides that one face that I saw while crossing the river, way back earlier on in the trail loop. However, as I got to the last mile of the loop, things really got out of hand. Not far off in the woods around me, and not to my left or right, but all around me. The forest came alive with these horrible growls and screams. It sounded like an animal getting hurt. Like, can you imagine the scream that a coyote, for example, would make if he got stuck in a bear trap? This howling scream of pain mixed that sound of pain with anger and deepened it quite a bit. And that's kind of what I heard all around me. There was multiple of whatever was making this. Now I knew for a fact there was some sort of animal following me, or animals, and I knew I had to quickly finish this trail loop, or else who knows what would have happened. The noises continued to go on and off, along with the rest of the forest being totally silent. After finishing the trail loop, nobody else was in the parking lot, which, again, incredibly weird and not normal. I made it to my car, the sound still completely silent, got in my car and I drove off. I've not been back to that trailhead since, and that was May of last year. I've posted my story online in a couple places, but haven't really gotten adequate feedback yet, or at least anything that would help me point in a concrete direction of what it could have been. Somebody had mentioned Bigfoot. I don't believe in Bigfoot, but I do believe something happened. So maybe you can kind of help me understand what I went through, and maybe if there truly was some sort of unknown animal following me and stalking me. Hopefully, it did not plan to eat me. Not a monster sighting at all, but I saw something that I cannot explain what it was. When I was 17 and living with my father, he had a good amount of property and had a barn all the way out back. Beyond that is fencing. And for whatever reason, the old owners, before they put the fencing around the property line and the tree line, they had this kind of old, well, it wasn't a rundown shed at the time, but beyond the fencing into the wood line, there's this little maybe 10 by 10 shed, used for storing various tools and supplies. My father, for whatever reason, even after storing stuff in the barn and putting up fencing around the entire property, still insisted on putting supplies in there when we had ample room in the barn. Why, I'm not exactly sure. So, my father always made me the fetch boy. Anytime he needed specific tools, even though he didn't use them that rarely, which is why I think he put them in there, he would have me go out past the barn, over the fencing, out about 30 or 40 meters into the woods, to the shed. It was completely out of the way, and there wasn't even a gate or anything. I had to climb over the fence, which was a small wooden fence, and then walk roughly 40 meters to get into the shed, which was padlocked, and would require a special key that my dad gave me. While it was a complete pain and inconvenience to walk all the way out there, it also gave me the creeps. I'm not gonna lie. You're surrounded by woods. Pretty dense woods, mind you. I always had the same feeling every time I was over in the shed grabbing stuff, that I was very vulnerable. That something, at any given moment, could reach out and grab me if it wanted to. I've never been a believer in monsters or Bigfoot, or anything that's a supposed hoax, but there's just something around that shed. It just, I don't know. I can't put words to it. It made me very uncomfortable. And so every time my father would call me to fetch supplies from the shed, I would dread it. But I respect my father and I love him. So I did what I was supposed to do. He had purchased this entire plot of land when I was roughly 13 with his inheritance money. Shortly after that, when I was around 15, he really began trying to clean up the property, installing a nice fence, really using the barn, and keeping the shed all the way out back there for tools that he would only need for special occasions, keeping his main tools and his every now and then tools separated. That's enough background info. This was wintertime, and I remember because it had snowed. Not a heavy snowfall, but maybe a foot. Enough that there could be visible tracks in the snow. From me, leading out to the house, past the barn, up to the fence, climbing over the fence, and up to the shed. As I'm approaching the shed, it's completely silent, which isn't exactly uncommon in the wintertime. I unlock the shed, grab the few tools my dad needs, lock it back up, and I walk out, feeling incredibly creeped out, more so than usual. It felt like there was something around, but I tried to pay no attention to it and get back to my father, due to his poor patience. I did not want to make him mad. The day goes on, and my father requests that I go take the tools back and store them safely. So, it's now getting to be about evening time. The sun is just starting to set in the sky, so it's not dark or anything yet, but it will be soon. So I'm making my way back, and as I get to the fence, I can just sense deep down in my gut, something isn't right. Have you ever had that feeling? Or maybe you've been in a situation where your gut instinct is telling you, don't go further, don't do this, don't do that. Danger, imminent danger. And that's immediately what I felt. And my first thought was, maybe there's a mama bear around with her cubs. Or maybe there's a cougar. You never know in these parts. Even more so considering all around me is very densely packed woods. And in the dead of winter time, without all the leaves, the brush was still thick, with bramble, dead bramble, trees, and everything else. Something could easily be hiding in there. But, not wanting to make my father angry, I decided to push my feelings aside and press on. These things needed to be put away, and he would be furious if I left his tools out for any reason. So I climbed over the fence, with the tools still in my hand, walked up to the shed. Now, as I'm walking up to the shed, I'm roughly maybe 10 meters. I hear something to my 2 o'clock come running at me through the woods. It sounded big. Imagine a silverback gorilla or a rhinoceros, something of incredible size that is also bipedal, come charging at you. I'm in mid-stride, probably now about 5 meters from the shed, about to pull the key out of my pocket, when this thing breaks out of the brush, probably no more than 15 or 20 feet away from me. And this thing that I've never seen before in my life looks me directly in my eyes, and it looks pissed that I'm there. In that very moment, I felt my entire life flash before my eyes. I just knew I was a goner. Without even thinking, just reacting, I threw down the tools, turned around and ran, which I know is the worst thing you could possibly do, dealing with any unknown predator, because things like to give chase. I don't know if this thing ran after me. I just booked it, flying over the fence, and going as fast as I can, not checking if this thing ran behind me. My dad, who was outside the house, putting some of his stuff away, looked at me, and wondered what was wrong. Asked me why I was scared, since I probably wore it pretty well on my face, and I was stuttering really bad, telling him what I just saw. He immediately got angry, thought I was just trying to be lazy and not put away his stuff. He cut me off mid-sentence, demanding I go back there, finish the job that I was told to do, and put away things properly. He did not want to hear it, and in my teenage frustration, I felt desperate, not sure what to do. So I stood there for a moment, and I slowly walked back. You have to understand that in that moment, I really had no options. He was looking at me the entire time, making sure I go back and take care of the tools. But also, where he is on the side of the house that he's on, he can look and see the direction that I'm going. But he can't see beyond the fence, and once you cross over the fence, the woods are dense enough, even in winter, that you can't see the shed because of where it's tucked in at. I'm walking as slow as possible, dragging my feet, just anticipating this thing jumping out over the fence, going to grab me and kill me. I'm completely unarmed. I have nothing. Maybe a pocket knife in my back pocket. So I'm slowly making my way up to the fence, and just like before, it's completely quiet, void of any noise or sounds. I slowly climb over the fence, and make my way very slowly, trying to be as quiet as I can to the shed. I figured, in my moment of desperation, if I had the key pulled out, I could quickly walk up to the shed, being as quiet and stealthy as possible, grabbing the tools on the ground, which I could see, and quietly putting them in the shed, quietly locking it, turning and booking it out of there. And hopefully, whatever it is that I saw would not be around. Now, I begin my slow ascent towards the shed, Skyrim sneak style. I'm crouched, being as quiet and stealthy as I can, and as I get to about 10 meters from the shed, like I was before, I look over to where this thing barreled through the woods, and I could see all the snow that was disturbed from where it landed. And to my horror, I look, and I could see that once I had ran away, or who knows how long after, it escaped behind the shed. That's where the disturbed snow and tracks seem to lead, which means it's either hiding behind the shed, or it's in the woods close by. I was even more terrified now, my heart beating out of my throat, my hands sweaty. I quickly fumble the key, quickly grab the supplies off the ground, unlock the padlock, tear it off, open the door, and I don't even bother to gently set the tools in. I kind of just quietly toss them in. I'd figured my dad wouldn't notice, and I would just deal with it later. I quickly relock the padlock, and I turn around, and without wasting a second, I begin to run. But before I can even lift a leg to start running, I hear the nastiest, most guttural growl I've ever heard in my life, and it came from right behind the shed, right in the little patch of woods. I bolted out of there, jumping over the fence, and running back to my dad. I didn't even bother telling him anything. I just told him the tools are away and all is good. That was pretty much the end of that. The rest of the time that I lived there, I never experienced anything like that again, so I have no idea what it was I saw that day. But believe me when I say that I had to go back to that shed multiple times since then, including the following winter, and all the way up until I graduated high school, when I would turn 18, and I finally moved out of there to go live with some roommates in the city. Before I end this, I want to include more details on what this thing did and what it looked like. The first time, as I'm standing there, about 10 meters away from the shed, and this thing jumps out of the woods, onto the snow. It kind of just looks at me, looks angry that I saw it, but more kind of just staring me down. It was like a mixture of emotion on its face, a cross between sizing me up, angry that I was there, and like it was plotting or planning on what its next move was. It was terrifying looking, I'm not gonna lie, but after looking into its eyes, I knew that it was also highly intelligent, and this wasn't some wild animal. It had a massive, woolly, hairy body, covered in thick brown hair, legs just like a man. I couldn't see its feet or the bottom parts of its legs. It was buried in snow. It had really long, woolly, thick arms, massive hands like a person, with long, dangly claws, and its face was elongated, kind of like a dog, but it did not look canine at all. It had large fangs and teeth sticking out of its mouth, from its bottom jaw and its top jaw. It had sunken-in eyes that were set on the sides of its skull, and these long horns that would shoot from the top of its head, off in a kind of a spiraling direction. Not like a ram or goat, but they kind of angled off. They actually... It had large fangs and teeth sticking out of its mouth, from its bottom jaw and its top jaw. It had sunken-in eyes that were set on the sides of its skull, and these long horns that would shoot from the top of its head, off in a kind of a spiraling direction. Not like a ram or goat, but they kind of angled off. They actually resembled that of gazelle horns, where they kind of angle up, but kind of twist and bend. And they were also black. Whatever this monster was, looked like something straight out of my own nightmares, and was enough to make me frozen in the second. There was no thinking. It was fight or flight, do or die. And if I made the wrong choice, I could have died. I had no hesitations that this thing wouldn't kill me if it wanted to. I'm not sure why it jumped out at me, or if it heard me coming, or what. But it did seem to be surprised that I was there, like it wouldn't expect me to be there. And when it went behind the shed, Maybe it was waiting for the right moment to attack me, or to lure me back there and eat me. I don't know. But as I told you, I never saw it again after that. That was the end of it. My father, of course, never believed me, even though I had told him and reiterated the story to him multiple times. He just still is convinced I was trying to be lazy and get out of putting the tools away. Even though I've done a lot of work with my father, and never once have I acted like that. He's just a hard old fart. It's really driving me crazy that I can't find out exactly what I saw. It wasn't a Bigfoot, was certainly not a dogman, and I don't think it was a skinwalker. I tried to hop on Google Images and see if there's any creature that could come close to what I possibly saw, to maybe help identify a specific cryptid that would help narrow it down. Well, the closest I found was if you Google sheep squatch, and it's a creature that looks similar to what I saw. Not at all the same, though. If you Google it, you'll find a creature that has ram-like horns, a very sunken-in face with a lot of sharp, tiny teeth, and hooves on its feet. While there is a resemblance, and it's the closest of what looked like what I saw, it's not exactly. The body was pretty spot on in this image. Very thick, woolly hair, very brown, but the hands are different. Even though they're human hands, they had long, thick black claws at the end of each fingertip. It looked very abnormal looking. The arms were a little bit longer. The legs, just like the body and arms, very thick, very muscular, very oversized. And the head looked similar, but not at all like the picture. It was more elongated, not set in like the creature displayed, and it had more of a mouth and face like a canine, but didn't look canine, if that makes sense. The eyes were more sunken in, were more pronounced, and the horns were not at all white or curled back like a ram's horns. They were more like a gazelle, like I said, and twisted and gnarled and pointed upwards, and were black. The teeth also weren't like that in the picture. They weren't tiny and sharp. They were large and looked more like dinosaur teeth, to be honest with you, than anything else. Something you truly expect to see on a monster. I'm truly grateful that my father, to my knowledge, never had to see it or deal with it. And that was the last time that I ever saw it myself. Oh, and one last thing. A few months after I moved away, he actually ended up having that shed torn down and rebuilt a new one about probably 40 feet away from the house, closer to the barn, but closer to the house, so he could access his tools easier. I wonder why he didn't just do that initially. A very terrifying night I had back years ago when I was backpacking by myself around Twin Falls, Idaho, in the woods. Not another soul around for miles. I was completely isolated and alone. I'm also very aware and knowledgeable about the wildlife of the area that I'm stepping into, so I didn't go into this unprepared or ignorant. I had bear mace, a knife, even a 9mm, just in case. You can never be too sure out here. This would have been probably my third night. Everything was very normal. Keep in mind, though, that I'm the only soul around for miles. I'm up in the mountains, and there's no reason there should be anybody out here. So, I turn in for the night, and I wake up, sometime in the early morning hours, to this deep, heavy breathing. Imagine somebody the size of a giant, and who's also been a lifetime smoker. It almost had a deep wheeze quality every time the breath exhaled. I froze right in my sleeping bag, thinking there's somebody here outside my tent, looking for something. It stood there for what felt like forever, just stayed there stationary, heavy breathing. And then it began moving around my tent, knocking over supplies, throwing all my stuff around, grunting, and making a very heavy noise. Every time it took a step on the ground, I could tell this was not a person. It was incredibly heavy. It kind of just took its time, making its way around my camp, and at one point got really up close to my tent, even grabbed a hold of the zipper and was messing around with it. Pulled it down about halfway, slowly, like it was going to go into my tent. I was petrified, and then it just stopped. and everything became completely silent. I laid there for about another hour, didn't hear anything, expecting this thing to either rip the door open and charge in and grab me, or just nothing. I eventually fell asleep from sheer exhaustion and was jolted awake by my instant memories of what happened. I shot up, grabbed my firearm, and ran outside, being very aware of my surroundings. The sun was now up, and my campsite was trashed. All my supplies were thrown everywhere. Stuff was torn up. My tent was left alone, and this horrible odor lingered in the air. It smelled like a mix between a rotting carcass that had been sitting in the sun for days on end, so rotting nasty meat, wet dog, and this awful skunky odor. It was incredibly musty, the most musty I've ever smelt in my life. It was so much so that it was overpowering to the point to where it made me gag. The smell was all around my campsite. I cut my losses right there, packed up everything, and headed back towards civilization, to where I felt safe, and around animals and creatures and nature that I was familiar with. What was supposed to be a 7-day hike out in the Idaho mountains by myself ended up only being about 3 or 4 days. It probably saved my life. My grandfather is full native and is from the Choctaw tribe. He actually has a ton of scary stories from growing up around the res, but one that I'll share with you today is when he was about 13 or 14. He was out with his father doing something in the woods, probably gathering firewood, if I can remember right, when he says that he felt something watching him. He brushed it off, continued splitting wood, I believe, and when he finally looked over and stopped ignoring his senses, he sees this massive head sticking out of the thicket with large horns staring at him. The words he used to describe it were scary and ugly, and said that it had really nasty sharp teeth, like they were yellow and rotten with bits of black all over them. Said the eyes were a very dull yellow and had very tiny black pupils. It really scared my grandfather for a long time, but he had already had run-ins with the paranormal, aliens supposedly, and all other sorts of crazy paranormal happenings where he was living. So this was really just another branch on the tree, so to speak. I had tried doing some research to see if I can find any Native American folklore or legend that fits the description of what he gave me, but the only thing I could come across was Goatman, and I don't think that's what he saw. He also explained that whatever this thing was, poking its head through the thick brush, it was very tall, well over 8 or 9 feet, and that the head was incredibly massive. I think he just thought it was some sort of demon coming for him. His father, also being a believer, you might say superstitious, whatever you want to call it. My grandfather told his father, my great-grandfather, they didn't waste any time. They got in the truck and they left. Before I go, another crazy story from my grandfather. When he was about 18, 19, or 20, it was in the fall, and he was tracking this really large buck. He came to this spot in the woods where he had good eyes on it, and as he got ready to make the shot, this large, Bigfoot-like creature comes out of nowhere, grabs the buck by the neck, twists and breaks its neck like it was a small bird, virtually effortlessly, then just grabs the buck by the back legs, throws it over its shoulder, and casually walks off. Scared my grandfather pretty badly too. He took off. My grandfather's tribe, the Choctaw people, have a name that they call these Bigfoot creatures, but forgive me, because I can't remember it at the moment, but he knows what he saw. He has also seen them growing up, so he knew what it was. I'll reach out to him and see if I can't get him to document or write down a bunch of his experiences and encounters. I think you would really appreciate them, and if anything, really enjoy them. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Have a wonderful day. I spoke with this witness on January 8th, 2006, for more than 40 minutes. This man and his wife were returning from a trip from Florence, Alabama, and they were watching the sun set as they drove along the Trace Parkway in a generally southwestern direction. They had just crossed the Mississippi-Alabama state line and had traveled approximately 3 to 4 miles into Mississippi as they approached mile marker 307. The witness said that he saw what initially appeared to be a person jogging along the right side of the road in a southwestern direction. He emphasized that it's fairly common to see joggers along the trace, so he didn't think too much about it at first glance. The witness said that when approaching that mile marker, the road is hilly and there's a slight downhill incline at that point. At the bottom of the hill, the road curves to the right when traveling southwest on the trace. There was a vehicle approaching in the opposite direction and was just entering the witness's field of vision as he topped the hill just prior to mile marker 307. The vehicle traveling in the opposite direction had also just topped the hill as well. As both vehicles came into view of each other on tops of their respective hills, the animal appeared to panic. Both cars traveled down their hills, around the curve, and past each other. The witness slowed to nearly a stop, while the other car appeared to pass by without slowing at all. The animal was initially traveling at a normal speed for a jogger when he first noticed it, but then it suddenly began moving quickly and appeared to be running at about the speed a deer would sprint as both vehicles entered the curve. As it crossed the road from right to left, it lost its balance and tipped, nearly falling down. After catching its balance, it bounded off into the woods. It had its back towards the him until it turned across the road. The closest he came to it was roughly 25 to 30 yards, and it ran between the two cars, and roughly equal distance between the vehicles. He said it was solid black, and was even illuminated by the sun, which was still in the sky at this point. He said the entire observation lasted only a matter of seconds, and his full attention was focused on it for roughly 2. It happened so quickly that he didn't even have the time to say look to his wife, who was also in the car with him. He thinks the sighting took place with the bounds of Tishomingo State Park. He emphasized that he did not pay much attention to it until it panicked and began moving very quickly. He got a side profile of it as it crossed. He said its head did not look human and appeared to be a little raised in the back and appeared to slope towards the front. He described it as very stocky with a muscular build. When it tripped, it swung its arms out to catch its balance. He said the hands appeared to be much larger, proportionally than a human's, and the arms appearing to be longer, proportionally than a normal human arm. While the animal was running along the highway, the arms were up like a human, just like they would be when jogging. The surrounding terrain is steep hills and large boulders. Bear Creek even runs through here. An area adjacent to this location is called the Freedom Hills. It's called that because it was a favored hiding area for escaped slaves prior to the Civil War. It's very possible a large wild beast might be roaming through this area that resembles that of what they call a Bigfoot. My mother and I had taken my young Doberman to the Honey Island swamp to let him run and get some exercise. We had driven to the end of the road where the bridge had collapsed and you could not go any further back by car. The area is just a few miles from the Honey Island exit, off of Interstate 59 in Mississippi. The road was built up, about 8 feet from the ground, since it flooded back there. The area around the road was swampy, having lots of trees. The ground was covered in leaves, since it was fall. We had been there about 10 minutes, and my dog had pretty much been staying on the road as he ran around. I went to get something out of the car, and when I began walking back to where my mother was on the road, she was looking out into the wooded area at something. She pointed out what appeared to be something dark beside a large cypress tree. We could not make out a head, but it appeared to be gray and black, covered in fur, and was actually a torso. Whatever we were looking at was large. It stood above some bushes, and the top part was behind the branches of the tree. It had to have been well over 6 feet tall, since the bushes were at least 3 feet tall. It definitely was not another tree, because the texture was so different, and the big tree next to it looked different. It was approximately 1 p.m. The sun was bright. The light was dappled through the tree cover, but we could see that it was shining off of what appeared to be hair.
Oh, here we go, man. Hey, thank you for that short break. I know you guys loved it. I don't know if you like those pre-recorded ones, but man, let me know what you think about these stories. They're pretty cool, man. And if you have any emails, definitely let me know. Lincoln, what do you think?
Man, I think it's badass. That's what I think. Everybody, I want you to give it up for To NoAvaiL Mystery Podcast. That's right. Man, we love it. If you guys have any emails, please email them. Dad, what was it? What was it again, Dad? It's 2NA Mystery Podcast at gmail.com. I'm your host, Lincoln the Doggonaut. That's right. Dad, give it up.
Oh, thank you, Lincoln. You are such a badass. I do appreciate you, man. So what do you guys think about those stories? Man, I mean, it does get, they get pretty, wild, but man, I gotta say, there's, like I always say, there's not anything that I don't believe in. And I particularly know that just because we can't see something does not mean it does not exist. So I got a couple more emails. Just throw away 1020. This one from an email. All right. To NoAvaiL, thank you for reading my story on your podcast. We love your podcast. Man, keep it up. Hope to hear my story. All right, man. Just throw away 1020. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I love having your story on here. If you have any more, man, or any friends, definitely, man, email them. I love reading them. So this one, just throw away 1020. In my old house, I had a lot of encounters with something, usually just the feeling of being watched and swearing I saw something move. On the night this happened, I had already called my stepmom into the room to sleep with me because I felt watched, that eerie feeling. I was 13 or 14 at the time, so it wasn't just me being young and scared of some made-up monster and peeing in my bed. Hey, man, it happens. It happens. She left the room to go let the dog out. I had the TV on and was in bed. I then saw some weird little black orb that passed in front of the TV, and the fucking cable box turned off. I had never screamed louder in my life. My mom died in the room over back in 2015. I was maybe 10 feet through a wall away from where she died. Everyone likes to either tell me it was a hallucination or it was my mom, oh so lovingly visiting me. I feel like she would have the sense to stop when I cried on multiple occasions because of how scared I was. Well, man, I tell you what, just throw away 1020. I'm pretty sure my sister came and saw me, and I could see her scaring the shit out of me on purpose, but at least they'll come and say hey if they do. Definitely let me know if you guys like these stories, because I got a million. So let's see. All right, this one, and then I'm out of time, my friends. Well, maybe that's tag, maybe not. Let's see. Where am I? No. Well, yeah, I think... Oh, no. Here we go. Alright. And how is everybody doing today? Everybody having a good day? Lincoln's being a little shite, but that's okay. I don't think he feels good either. All right, this is pretty funny. Sarah will laugh about this one. This one's from Sorlium1. All right. Alrighty. All right. I've got one that I call my Ghost of Meth Head story. Oh, boy. When I was around 15 or 16, we started getting knocks on our door at around 10 p.m. at night, once or twice a week. Always around 10 or 11 p.m. Always 3 strong, curt knocks. We would also hear the sliding glass door to our sunroom open and slam closed. This went on for about 3 months. Every time I rushed out to catch whatever it was, I was met with a whole lot of nothing. I remember one night I was chilling in my room with my dog asleep on my leg. My room shared a wall with our sunroom. I hear the sliding glass door fly open. My dog hears it too and is instantly awake. I'm out the front door in less than 3 seconds, maybe less. Nothing there. Sliding glass door half open. After that, the knocks became less frequent. Started happening only about once a month. One night, I'm out with my martial arts friends, and I get a call from my mom, asking if that's me at the door. I say no, and immediately rush home. Nothing again. The next night, the knocks come again, and this time I'm standing right next to the door. I pull out my knife, and I'm out of that door like a bat out of hell. I see my gate swing open. I sprint out into my driveway. Again, nothing. I wander to the edge of my driveway and see my neighbor, a young ex-Marine who lives with his elderly mother next door, standing out there smoking a cigarette. He asks me if I'm looking for my dog. I feel a chill go down my spine. I tell him no. I'm looking for the thing that keeps knocking on my door. My mom had previously told him and his family about the strange knocks. This dude's demeanor instantly changes. He tells me to give him my knife and call the cops. I do, and he gets a flashlight and starts to look in the bushes across the street. It's a windy night. I call the cops and come back outside and ask him if he sees anything. He tells me he saw what looked like a large dog running on all fours, bolt across the street into the bushes at an inhuman speed. He said he thought it was my dog getting out, but said it looked a lot bigger than he thought my dog was. Good-sized German Shepherd. When I told him it was the thing producing the knocking, he said it clicked, that something was wrong. As well, he said whatever it was smart, because he could hear it moving in the bushes, but it would only move when the wind blew to mask the movement. The cops show up and start looking around. They find a trampled path leading up the neighborhood just in front of my house. Starts to lead up a hill. My other neighbor from the first house on the hill walks down and asks the cops if they are looking for somebody. They said yes. He said there's a someone on this roof. The look the cops gave each other was comical. We're up at the house in 30 seconds. The cops, my neighbor, and my little 16-year-old ass. Cops climb up on the roof and can't find anybody. Cop says the only way off that roof was a 20-foot jump over a spiked metal gate. We go around to check it out, and sure enough, trampled pathway leading out into the forest trails on the hill. Whatever was on the roof had presumably made an Olympic-level leap off the roof and over a Gothic-style spiked metal fence to escape. The next day, we go out to observe the trail this thing left in daylight. We find right across the street from the driveway, I shit you not, a trampled-down nest in the foliage that had the months-old remains of various small creatures. The knocks stopped after that, but it's always my favorite ghost story to tell. Had a lot of other strange things happen in the neighborhood. Just a weird place. I stopped being receptive to them once I hit my 20s. But still wonder if there's still weird stuff going on. I just don't notice it anymore. Was it a ghost or a monster? Just some method out transient with a pinch it or long jump and running on all fours like a fucking monkey person? Just a straight up elderly horror. My mom ended up calling the city every week for months and demanding they trim the foliage across our street from us until they finally did. And then we bought 3 guns. Well, that was a smart one to do, I gotta say. Well, everybody, I thank you guys. This was I had a great time today. I hope you guys did as well. Please check out my website at joelshaddy77.podbean.com. Become a patron. Check out my shirts coming up, and $1 to $3, man, keeps the lights on and the stories coming. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Same bad place, same bad time tomorrow.